In the last few years, wireless mic options for content creators have gotten really good. Wireless kits at the $300 price point or slightly higher have really stepped it up in the last few years specifically. And while it's good to have improvements and a lot of choices, now it can actually be kind of difficult to choose the right option for your content. To help with this decision, we're going to compare the sound quality and the features of the Rode Wireless Go 2, the Rode Wireless Pro, the Hollyland Lark Max, and the DJI Mic system. Now before we dive in, I want to mention that out of these kits, I bought all of them myself except for the Hollyland Lark Max, which was sent to me by Hollyland to make a dedicated review video, which I did, and I will link in the corner and the description in case you want to check out that more detailed review of the Lark Max. There are some things that all of these kits have in common, and there are some things that maybe only one of them offers, but none of the features really matter if you don't like the sound quality. If you don't like how the mics sound, you just won't want to use the built-in mic, and that takes away from the value of the overall kit. Now for this comparison, we're going to be going back and forth between all four of these mics, and while we're rotating through these built-in microphones on the transmitters, we will start talking about some differences, but keep an eye on the screen because I will be indicating which transmitter you're currently hearing. We're actually recording each of these in two ways right now. We're capturing the internal audio on all four of the transmitters, and then you'll also hear the wireless audio, which is being transmitted to the receivers, all of which are plugged into my MacBook, and I'm using an app called Audio Hijack to record them all simultaneously. I've got all of these mounted to cold shoes that are just on a piece of a camera cage here on a ball head. In terms of more specifics on how we're recording, all of them are being recorded over USB, as I mentioned, in 24-bit 48 kilohertz sample rate. On the internal recordings, as we switch between them, there is a difference because 3 of these kits record internally in 24-bit and one of them records in 32-bit float. So the Wireless Pro from Rode is the standout that has some additional features and a higher price point. All 3 of the others, the Wireless Go 2, the Hollyland Lark Max, and the DJI Mic kit, all retail for right around the $300 price point. The Wireless Pro retails for $400, but it does have some features that these others don't, and we'll get into that feature comparison in just a minute. But the main difference as far as internal recording is that 32-bit float compared to 24-bit on the other 3. However, it's important to point out and understand that that 32-bit float is only on the internal recording. All of these are going to be subject to the limitations of the wireless connection, depending on what you have it connected to. So when you run all of these over USB into a computer or a mobile device, they're going to be recording in 24-bit on that device as long as you have your software that's recording set to 24-bit depth. But if you're running the wireless audio over the 3.5mm output on any of these into a camera, then it's your camera that's going to limit the quality level. Many cameras on the market, including the Sony cameras that I use, the a7 IV and the FX30, they are limited to recording in 16-bit if you're using the 3.5mm input. Now, all of these have an extremely usable range in my experience. Honestly, when I've done range tests on these mic kits, I found 2 things to be consistently true for all of them. One is that if you're recording in an environment that has a lot of 2.4 gigahertz band traffic, meaning like residential Wi-Fi signals. I've done testing on the roof of the parking garage in my apartment building where there are hundreds of apartment units here, tons of residential Wi-Fi around. And on all of these kits, I start to run into interference and some signals dropping out once I go beyond 50 meters, even though all of these kits are rated for, going up at least 150 or 200 or even 250 meters with a clear line of sight, of course. That's not with any obstructions in the way. But I consistently find that in areas where you have a lot of population density, a lot of Wi-Fi, a lot of other 2.4 gigahertz traffic in the air, none of these are super dependable once you go beyond 50 or 60 meters. Here's a sample of the Hollyland Lark Max at a distance of 50 meters away from the camera in a densely populated residential area, which is going to have some Wi-Fi traffic around. This is the sound without noise reduction turned on in the hi-fi mode. And here's a sample of the Rode Wireless Go 2 at a distance of 50 meters away from the camera with the wind muff installed. And here's a sample of the Rode Wireless Pro at 50 meters away from the camera, dead cat installed. And here's a sample of the DJI Mic at a distance of 50 meters away from the camera, dead cat installed. In a more wide open space, I do find that these kits mostly are consistent up to about the 100-meter range. Now, the ones here that state that they go upwards of 250 meters in terms of the max range, I still don't find that I can get all the way to that distance without any signal dropouts or interference or anything like that, even in a wide open space that's more suburban with less, Wi-Fi traffic around. And in my opinion, 50 meters in densely populated areas or 100 meters in more wide open areas, I think that that performance meets the needs of most content creators. So what do you think of the audio quality of these built-in microphones between the internal recordings and the USB wireless recording? Let me know down in the comments which one you think is your favorite and which one you think is your least favorite. Now, for me personally, my top choice here is the Rode Wireless Pro, and I was surprised by this because the Wireless Go 2 is my least favorite out of all of these. So for me, Rode took a huge step forward, not just in the features and the value for the price of the Wireless Pro, but in the sound quality as well. To me, it sounds the most balanced. It's got a fuller, richer sound to it than the Wireless Go 2. For the middle two, I give the edge to the Hollyland Lark Max. It's still got more of that full sound, a little bit more of the low end. It's a little bit less natural in the high frequencies than the Rode Wireless Pro, which is why it's not my top choice. But between the three 24-bit internal recording options at the $300 price point, the Lark Max is my favorite. And that would place the DJI Mic system in between the Lark Max and the Wireless Go 2. I don't have necessarily a problem with the audio quality of the DJI Mic kit. I just think it's a little bit thinner, a little bit less full and balanced compared to the Hollyland Lark Max. And just for reference, here is a sample of the sound of my normal audio setup for my YouTube videos. Right now you're hearing the Sennheiser MKH50 recording into a MixPre 6 Mark II recorder at 32-bit 48 kilohertz. The MKH50 is a well-respected industry standard microphone for indoor dialogue, and the Sound Devices MixPre series of recorders have excellent quality preamps and that 32-bit recording. So if any of them sound even close to the same ballpark of sound quality, then that would be a pretty good achievement for these kits, because the most expensive one here is the Wireless Pro at $400, which is a fraction of a price of even just the MKH50. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the features and the value for the price of what you're getting here. In terms of the worst value for the price, again, I have to give it to the Wireless Go 2, because the three other mic kits here, the DJI Mic kit, the Hollyland Lark Max, and the new Wireless Pro, they all give you way more for the price compared to the Wireless Go 2. You don't even get a decent carrying case, you just get a pouch. So yeah, no offense to any Wireless Go 2 owners out there. I've had it for a couple of years myself, but it just, the position it's in the marketplace now with these newer options is just not very good. The other three kits do offer very good value for the price, in my opinion. Of course, we have the price difference of $100 between the DJI Mic, the Hollyland Lark Max, and then the Rode Wireless Pro, which is $400 instead of $300. However, the Rode Wireless Pro does have some extra features, and it even comes with a couple of things that the other two kits don't. So in my opinion, the price difference of $100 is justified between the Wireless Pro and the other two, but that doesn't mean that the Lark Max and the DJI Mic kit are not good values, because for $300, you are getting a charging case with both of them. You are getting some great features and usability. They both have easy to use menus on their receivers that are touch screens, and they both include all the connectors that you need. They both give you USB-C and Lightning adapter cables in case you're going to use them with any Apple devices that have a Lightning connector. And they both also have a great user experience. They're very easy to just, flip open the case, take them out, they turn on, they auto connect, and they just work. The Wireless Pro also includes a charging case, and it has a pretty cool feature where the USB-C connection on the charging case is also a data connection. So when you connect the case to your computer, not only is it charging the case up, but you can also dump the internal recordings off of your two transmitters at the same time onto your computer when you have the charging case connected, and I think that's pretty cool. Now, the Wireless Pro also does come with two lavalier microphones in the kit, and these are the Lavalier 2 from Rode, which retail for $99 a piece. Rode finally is also including the magnet clips for the Rode Wireless Pro, which the DJI Mic kit and the Hollyland Lark Max also include, and that's a small detail, but the magnetic clips are, to me, so much easier and more convenient to use than having to clip them somewhere like way up by your neck if you're not wearing a button-down shirt. And Rode made you pay like 19 bucks a piece for those little magnetic clips for the original Rode Wireless Go 2. But the standout features of the Rode Wireless Pro Pro are the 32-bit internal recording, and then you've also got timecode functionality, and you have a couple other features that these don't have. So the Wireless Pro also features auto gain, which you can turn off and still set gain manually. It's also got more storage space. However, it kind of needs more storage space because 32-bit float files take up more space, but it does still at the end of the day net out to more storage for more audio in the transmitter compared to the other three. Battery life is pretty similar. None of them have like a really big edge when it comes to battery life of the transmitters. A physical feature the Wireless Pro has that the others don't is an actual thread for locking connector lavalier microphones. In fact, the lavs that come with the Wireless Pro do have locking connectors. That's an advantage, especially if you already own locking connector lav mics that you intend to use with your kit, because they just straight up don't work with the Lark Max and the DJI Mic system. They can't be inserted far enough to even be recognized by these transmitters. The Wireless Go 2, it does work. I've been able to get them plugged in far enough to actually work, but there's no threads to screw into, so you're still sort of prone to popping out easily. And then of course you've got the timecode feature on the Wireless Pro that the others don't have. Now if you don't use timecode, it's still a decent feature to have in case at some point you decide to use timecode. But one important thing to note is the Wireless Pro can only generate timecode. It cannot be jam synced from another timecode generator. So if you already have something that generates timecode that you use, you can't force that timecode into the Wireless Pro. You can only create timecode with it. Now the DJI Mic kit and the Hollyland Lark Max do have a couple other features that the Rode systems do not. Hollyland has a noise reduction feature that you can turn on and off. It can be a tad aggressive, and I personally would rather use noise reduction in post and have more control over it, but that is a feature the Lark Max has. The Lark Max and the DJI Mic both have a low cut mode that you can turn on. The DJI Mic kit, it's just an independent setting you can turn on and off. The Hollyland has 3 EQ settings, and we've been hearing the hi-fi EQ mode for this whole time, but they do have 2 other EQ modes, one of which is a low cut filter and another one is a vocal boost mode, which is kind of like a combination of very mild noise reduction and a little bit of a presence boost. One sort of secret weapon extra feature that the Rode systems have that the other 2 don't is the ability to use them with Rode's other ecosystem of products and software. The transmitters for both the Wireless Pro and the Wireless Go 2 can send their signal directly into a Rodecaster Pro 2 or a Rodecaster Duo. You can actually have them send wireless audio straight into the device and have it recorded as another channel. And when you have the Wireless Pro or the Wireless Go 2 connected over USB to a computer, you can also use them with Rode's free podcasting and mixing recording software, Rode Connect. If you already use Rode Connect, if you have one of the Rodecaster devices, then staying in that ecosystem and getting those extra features might be worth it for you. Let's just take a second and strongly consider 32-bit float and if it's really necessary. Because if it's not for you, then maybe paying the extra $100 for the Wireless Pro isn't worth it. So is 32-bit float strictly necessary? No, it's not. 24-bit audio has plenty of dynamic range, and as long as you set your gain to a reasonable level, you won't run into any clipping or distortion issues, especially if you're using them 99% of the time in a controlled environment like this. But is 32-bit float nice to have? Yes, it is, because you can worry less about setting proper gain levels and you can retrieve audio that would have otherwise clipped and distorted and been unusable. However, you do have safety track recording in the other 3 kits that help ensure you will always have usable audio if you enable the safety track mode, because it records one of the 2 channels at a lower level so that you've got something that didn't clip in case the primary channel does. So when is 32-bit float more of a necessity? Well, it really depends on the type of content that you're making. If you regularly record audio from guests who maybe you don't trust to maintain a nice consistent volume of their voice, then yeah, 32-bit float comes in really handy, because if that guest suddenly gets very loud, they might ruin the audio and have something that's unusable unless you have a safety track recording. Whereas with 32-bit float, you just don't have to worry about it. So like kind of the most extreme example I could think of that would be if you're using these mics to do street interviews. Excuse me, sir, have you heard the truth about lawn gnomes? What? Ugh. Unusable. But with the Wireless Pro, we have the internal 32-bit float recording, so now it can sound like this. What? So that 32-bit float can come in really handy, and it can rise to the level of almost being a necessity, especially if you make content where you're frequently capturing audio from guests or, sort of random people that you can't really trust to maintain the proper volumes when they're speaking. So at the end of the day, what do I recommend? Well, in 2023, with the options that are currently on the market, I personally don't recommend the wireless Go 2 anymore. With these other choices, I just don't recommend it. If your budget is pretty firm around the $300 price point, then I think you can't go wrong with either the Hollyland Lark Max or the DJI Mic kit. I personally prefer the Hollyland Lark Max because I think the sound is a little bit more full from the built-in mics, and I also like the menu on the receiver just a little bit better. But I wouldn't blame anybody for picking either of the two. I think they're both a good value for the price. However, if your budget does stretch up to that $400 price point, my top pick is now the Rode Wireless Pro. I think it's got the most balanced and natural sound from the built-in mics. It's got the 32-bit float. They just really put together a great package for the price. So I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about any of these mic kits. Also, let me know if you picked up any of these kits yourself and how you're liking it. Do me a favor and hit that like button if you did find the video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe to the Semi-Pro Tech and Gear channel. As always, links are in the description to all of these mic kits. Any purchases you make through those links will just help to support this channel. Thanks everybody. See you next time.